Struggling to move from intermediate to upper intermediate English? You are in the right place. I'm Liudmyla, a Cambridge C2 certified teacher, TEFL-qualified with over 10 years of experience. This is your friend English, and I'll help you to break through that plateau. Have you ever wondered whether it's better to learn English independently or with a teacher? Many learners ask this question, especially when they feel stuck or they are trying to decide whether to invest in lessons or continue studying on their own. The answer might surprise you. I remember listening to a Cambridge proficiency exam recording in which the founders of a language school discussed what really determines success in language learning. One of the points they made was that in most cases, the results depend far more on the student than on the teacher. In fact, they suggested that whether a teacher is excellent or merely average, the student's effort remains the decisive factor. The only real exception is when the teacher is genuinely unpleasant, discouraging, or difficult to work with. In that case, motivation can suffer. This idea challenges a common belief. Many students think that if they can just find the perfect teacher, they will finally become fluent. But language learning doesn't work that way. A teacher isn't a magician. A teacher is a guide, a coordinator, a mentor, and a source of feedback. They can provide structure, correct mistakes, ask questions, and keep you accountable. However, the teacher cannot learn the language for you. Even the most intelligent, experienced, articulate, and well-prepared teacher cannot guarantee success if the student doesn't put in consistent effort. Think about it this way. If you have one lesson per week, that's perhaps 1 hour of English, but there are 168 hours in a week. And what happens during the other 167 hours matters much more. The students who make rapid progress are usually not the ones with the best teachers. They are the ones who engage with English regularly. Reading, listening, speaking, writing, vocabulary reviewing, and actively practicing. Now, does that mean that teachers are unimportant? Not at all. A good teacher can make your learning more efficient and enjoyable. They can help you avoid mistakes, identify weaknesses, and focus on what matters most. So, what makes a good English teacher? First, a good teacher creates a positive learning environment. Students need to feel comfortable making mistakes because mistakes are an essential part of learning. Second, a good teacher understands the learning process. They know how to explain complex ideas clearly and adapt their methods to different learners. Third, a good teacher provides useful feedback. Instead of simply saying that's wrong, they help students understand why something is wrong and how to improve it. Fourth, a good teacher encourages independence. The goal isn't to make students dependent on lessons forever. The goal is to help them become autonomous learners. Here's another important point. Many students expect to sound exactly like their teacher, but that usually doesn't happen. Just because your teacher speaks in a particular way doesn't mean that you will automatically acquire her accent, pronunciation, or speaking style. If you want to sound more like a specific person, you need to actively imitate them. This is where techniques such as shadowing and mimicking become incredibly valuable. Shadowing means listening to a speaker and repeating what they say almost simultaneously. Mimicking goes even further. You try to copy not only the words, but also the pronunciation, rhythm, intonation, and even the speaker's mannerism. Without deliberate imitation, students tend to develop their own version of English based on all the input they receive. So, what should students do if they want to learn independently? Here are some of the most effective methods. Number 1. Summarize what you read and listen to. After reading an article or watching a video, don't just move on to the next one. Stop and ask yourself, what was this about? Then explain it in your own words. This simple habit forces you to process information actively and use vocabulary and grammar productively. Number 2, practice shadowing and mimicking. Choose a speaker whose English you admire. It could be a teacher, a presenter, an actor, or a podcaster. Listen carefully and imitate them as closely as possible. Focus on their pronunciation, stress, rhythm, and intonation. This is one of the fastest ways to improve speaking skills. Number 3, read and listen every day. Consistency beats intensity. 30 minutes every day is often more effective than 4 hours once a week. The key is regular exposure to the language. Number 4, keep a vocabulary notebook. Don't just write down new words. Write example sentences, common collocations and expressions that native speakers actually use. Review them regularly. Number 5, use an exam as a goal. Even if you don't need a certificate, preparing for an exam such as Cambridge B2 First, C1 Advanced, C2 Proficiency, or IELTS can provide structure and motivation. Exams give you a clear target. They encourage you to develop all 4 skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing, and they help you measure your progress objectively. Ultimately, the debate between independent learning and learning with a teacher is a false choice. The most successful students often combine both. They used a teacher for feedback, guidance, and accountability, but they also take responsibility for their own learning. Because at the end of the day, fluency is built through thousands of small actions repeated consistently over time. Finally, remember this: good teachers don't create successful students. Successful students make the most of good teachers. A teacher can show you the path. A teacher can shorten the journey. A teacher can help you avoid getting lost. But ultimately, you are the one who has to walk the road. So, if you're wondering whether to learn English independently or with a teacher, my answer is simple. Use a teacher if you can, but don't expect a teacher to replace your own effort, because in language learning there is no substitute for effort. So now tell me in the comments, do you prefer studying independently, studying with a teacher, or a combination of both? I'd love to hear about your experience. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Your Friend English for more English tips and lessons. You're never learning alone. Your Friend English. See you in the next lesson.